But he never changes the first and second, the apostle and the prophet. You might think, because I told you I am sent, and the word sent means an apostle, that I am appropriating unto myself a certain first rank. But now, to put your heart at peace, I'm going to quote the 11th chapter of Romans. As of old, for there are always a remnant of old, and the remnant simply means the elect of God. You're not elected because you're born by accident into some ethnic group. Has nothing to do with that. A descendant of Abraham after the flesh is not necessarily the elect of God. You are chosen from any race, any nation, any religion. Well, how the choice is made, no one knows. It remains the Father's secret. But Paul qualifies it in this manner. There is a remnant to this day called by grace. And if by grace, then it is not on the basis of works. Otherwise, grace would no longer be grace. Therefore, no one who is called and sent can brag. If he brags, he is not the sent. Because it's all by grace. He didn't earn it. It's not by merit. It is simply a secret known only to the Father. So when we are called, incorporated into the body of infinite love, who is God, and then sent, let no one who is sent raise a finger to brag, to boast, for it is all by grace. Read it in the 11th chapter, the 5th and 6th verses of Paul's letter to the Romans. So now I have stated that. So do not think for one moment when I tell you I have been called and sent that in any way I am trying to act superior. For there is no intrinsic superiority to those who are called. Now, he uses an analogy, which I do not think adequate, but you can read it in the book itself. He uses the analogy of the human form, that not all are heads, eyes, nose, teeth, and so on. But that is a weak analogy. Nevertheless, he uses that to show you the different parts in one body. But now to come back to make this a very practical night. Believe me that when you say I, before you say I am John, I am Bill, I am this, I am that, I am the other, you are declaring yourself to be. And that sense of being is God. That's God. Now what are you going to put on it? All things are possible to God. All things. You could say now, as you're seated here, after first affirming that I am, you could then assume that I am, and you name exactly what you want to be. If you believe what I tell you about your own I amness, and remain faithful to what you have assumed, that assumption will harden into fact. When you pray in the true sense of the word, you do not pray to any external God. That was my command when I was sent down with the blue bloods. Has nothing to do with the social structure of the world. It has only to do with church protocol. All external worship, all ceremonies, everything that leaves the individual outside of himself. to put a little cross on the wall, or the Morgan David, and then bow before it and see it as something external, is not what Scripture teaches. Buried in the Old Testament there is a pattern. So he said, taking the 12, we're going up to Jerusalem. And everything written about the Son of Man, which is the eye of man, will be accomplished. But they did not understand what he said. It was beyond their ability to grasp. He is going up, and only the one who has experienced Scripture, which means he has actually resurrected the pattern, playing the part that is the central part of Scripture. He resurrects the pattern, all within himself. He plays all the parts. He is the one who is born from above. He is the one who comes out of the grave, unassisted. He is the one whose 3 witnesses bear witness to his birth from above. He is the one they cannot see because he is now spirit, yet more real than all the flesh in the world. He is the one who actually sees his son, David, and David calls him father, and he knows he is David's father, and David knows that he is his son. He is the one whose temple, the body, is split in 2 from top to bottom. It is he now who ascends like a fiery serpent from the base of the spine up into the skull. He is the one on whom the dove descends and lights upon his hand like Noah in the ark. And as Noah brought the dove into him, you bring the dove to you, for man is the ark of God. And as the ark contains all things within itself, pardon me, man contains within himself all things. Everything he creates from within himself. And this pattern, the individual awakens within himself. And who does it? The eye of man. And that is God. Now tonight you can test it, as you're called upon to test it. Test yourselves and see. Do you not realize that Jesus Christ is in you? Unless, of course, you fail to meet the test. Examine yourselves to see whether you are holding to the faith. What faith? To have someone tell me that I am a Christian, or I'm a Jew, or a Mohammedan, and holding to that faith that they talk about? No. The faith that I'm talking about tonight, that your own wonderful I amness is God. Test it to see if you're holding to that faith. If you're holding to that faith, and all things are possible to God, you should be able to prove it in the testing.